Welcome to the Tech and Real Estate channel. Today, we're going to be speaking to Len Dugow. And if you haven't been a part of this channel before, we bridge the gap between real estate and technology. I'm your co-host and data scientist, Ariel Herrera, alongside with
Jose Rivas. Hey guys, welcome to the show.
welcome to the show. So Len, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. Looking forward to it.
And would love to hit all topics that we have, but just to start, if you could give a brief background about yourself and Dash.
Okay. So my background, I've spent last 25 years or so in all things real estate in all categories from a marketing and advertising standpoint. Have an agency, LGD Communications, and through the course of originally out of Manhattan. So I worked with all the primary and secondary developers there and brokerage firms and real estate agents and on and on. Kind of had an affinity for it. I come out of a creative from my background, but kind of leaned into to doing marketing for residential real estate, although we worked in all categories of real estate, but really kind of fell into it. And then in the late 90s, I was asked by a Florida developer to kind of come down and begin working there. And one thing led to another. We were rather successful very, very quickly. And the next thing I knew, I was commuting back and forth for 4 or 5 years. And then 2002 moved to South Florida. So I had really the opportunity to work with, and beyond New York and South Florida, I worked on projects in DC and Boston, Chicago, LA, San Francisco, San Diego. So really across the board. And through that experience of, hundreds and hundreds of projects in all different kind of, all the residential categories, what seemed to be clear is that the primary stakeholders in residential real estate are the developers, and then they're selected on-site brokerages, and then obviously the agents, general real estate agents that sell the properties. And what you would imagine to be that all their interests would be aligned, that developers should be building viable and wonderful projects, and on-site brokerages should kind of put it all together and then provide the information for agents to grab that information and then represent the project. And you'd think they would all be aligned. Same objective: create the real estate, market it efficiently, effectively, sell it at the highest price possible. So what I was able to, just under 3 years ago, it kind of occurred to me that from market to market, same challenges began to exist. Instead of working hand in glove with each other, they're working in silos. And they're working at cross purposes, not really seeing the greater good in a more transparent, streamlined way of getting accurate content into the hands of the people who are going to sell it. So a light bulb went off, and we started the process of interviewing. And because I'd worked in many, many different markets with developers and brokerages and agents, I just started asking questions about the things that were challenging them. And through over 300 interviews later, through different iterations, we came up with the concept of Dash, which was basically to provide developer content. And we only present on our platform pre and new construction, so there's no resales. So the idea was to present information that was accurate and timely, and make it really, really easy for agents to grab that information and then deploy it to their prospects in a way that would be over their own name, not over the on-site brokerage's contact information. And what we discovered through all these interviews is that over 75% of agents will not send out content, developer content, with their branding on it. I mean, it can be the developer's branding, but not the brokerage's content. So it had to be unbranded, which is defined as unbranded. And the other really complicated and challenge for agents were that developers put on their websites a toolbox for agents to go to, and they all go to Dropbox. Well, Dropbox is a rather medieval platform, never really designed for the business. And so what you wind up happening is that when an outside agent would say, okay, I'm interested in seeing what's going on, and I really want to take a look at it, and they would then send them to Dropbox. And you need a certain degree of technology to be able to grab this stuff and then reformat it for all the different social media channels. As you know, they have all different protocols. So that became a really complicated and challenging headwind for agents. So the idea was, the essence behind Dash is access for agents to grab all this content that we then have unbranded and have reformatted, all of it, for every single major social media channel. So all they have to do when they come to our platform is go through a couple of filters, click, and then send it out over their own names to their own social media channels. That's the essence of Dash, and it's in one platform. It just doesn't exist. And we launched about 5-6 days ago to a really surprising, but not all that surprising, degree of success, in that because we went through the painstaking kind of interviews and iterations of the platform with all the stakeholders. And we shared with about 24 of them every single new development and iteration of the Dash platform, asking them basically, provide your wish list. And we would share this with them. They say, well, it would be great if we could do this. And then we would do it. So it's really a platform as a true collaboration with all the stakeholders in the residential real estate sales process. So we're very excited about it. And our first market is South Florida. And I said we just launched 5 days ago. I mean, it's my backyard. So we'll go to New York in about 3 or 4 months, and then LA 3 or 4 months after that. And within the first 30 months, we should be in the top 10 markets. That's the game plan. So it's pretty exciting stuff. And we're excited about the initial response.
So, yeah, congratulations on launching recently. And it seems like through the last several months or years that you've been doing this, that you've really been able to find product market fit by going back and forth with who the users will be. But before we touch more on Dash, from what we spoke a little bit about earlier, is that you weren't always in the real estate space.
No.
So how did you venture and come into this path?
Well, I guess as you used to say, man makes plan, man makes plan and God laughs. I had absolutely no idea I would kind of land in this space. I came out of a copywriter. I wanted to be in the feature film business. I wanted to direct, as everybody else wanted to. Anyway, it didn't work out that way, but I was early on in my career, I was able to open a very boutique shop and kind of somehow forced my way into getting my first client, which was Paramount Pictures, doing some very, very basic stuff. And then it grew. I was in that space for like 10 years. It was wonderful. It was so exciting. And that business is entirely different today. But in the era, there were like 5 or 6 shops in New York and LA that really specialized in creative. And so what I really learned from that experience is that motion picture executives are a whole different kind of brand of individual. And how it served me well, fast forward, and today is that real estate developers are challenging a lot, for sure. Mercurial in so many different ways, so clever, so inventive, so childish, so small. I mean, everybody knows there's all kinds of crazy stories. And yet they are pussycats compared to what I experienced very early on in the motion picture business. Those folks are just a whole different level of crazy, but exciting. And what I learned from it is, how to kind of be nimble to get your creative through. Lots of egos, and a lot of it is very, very much familiar in the real estate business as well. You'll deal with a lot of folks that are very determined and myopic in their focus and direction. So you're going to have to, sometimes have very sharp elbows, and sometimes, you have to kind of help navigate through the challenges, which, I kind of learned. I mean, 30 years in this business and so many different markets and so many different personalities and so many different ups and downs and cycles of residential real estate. So, kind of figured it out along the way. I had to.
Yeah, it's great you're able to transfer those skills that you had previously over into the space. And you mentioned the different cycles in real estate you've been a part of. Any of those that maybe stick more out because of they were more favorable or least favorable?
Well, there were, in the So, in the mid 90s, it got a little robust and then a little squishy. And then 2000, 2001, it got kind of serious. And then kind of like in 2002, 3, it got very robust. I mean, I remember in Florida, South Florida, I mean, we were selling out 250, 300 unit condominiums over a weekend. And that was the era where, everybody, was buying with 10% down or less, no verification. I don't have to tell you the story. It was like, the hair, everybody, hairdresser was a developer. And I mean, it was a wild time. And there were some very, valuable lessons learned from that era. And then, we kind of stumbled into, 07, 08, 09, when it felt like it was the end of the world, Florida, very specifically. And I wound up working in that process with when all these, serious developers, personal friends, people I'd worked with for a long time, were, banks were taking it all back. I mean, and I wound up working with all these hedge funds and bankers and whatnot to kind of get rid of it. And that was a kind of a special nightmarish kind of, I mean, I remember when you could buy new buildings for $3 a foot on Brickell. I mean, it was wild. I mean, it was absolutely wild. And, all the pundits at the time said, this is going to take 7 years to be absorbed. I think it happened in 2.5 years. It was remarkable as to what happens. South Americans in South Florida market came in, saw, what these opportunities were. So that was really a fascinating time and very, very turbulent and tumultuous. So, kind of going through that era was kind of wild. And then pandemic, and I can't even begin to express to you what it felt like at the beginning. It's like a light switch went off, literally. I mean, for everybody, no matter what business you were in, everybody's scared to death. And then for, South Florida, especially, all of a sudden in 2021, we became the go-to destination for everybody. I mean, the migration of Northeasterners and folks from Texas and whatnot. And by the way, it hasn't stopped. I mean, people continue to come to the tri-state, and especially in Dade County, and I've now lived in Florida for 20 years. And I will tell you, the arc of that, of observing the growth, has been nothing less than remarkable. I used to have conversations with George Perez early in the day when he was, really quite the visionary. And early 2000s, you could shoot a cannon at 6 o'clock. You wouldn't hit anybody in downtown Miami. And today, I mean, it's unbelievable. So we're talking about within 10, 15 years, all these wonderful, I mean, downtown Miami is as vibrant as any area. And, Jorge really, kind of saw it and acted upon it. So, he gets a lot of credit. And then, PMG and Fortune and a whole host of other developers came in and really, it just took off. And now, Miami is as an international destination as any. And it's been wild to watch it, to observe it. So they've all had their own idiosyncrasies. They're all different, and they're all the same, and they're all different in many ways. And adjusting from a marketing standpoint has been critical. Look, 10 years ago, I've worked on hundreds and hundreds of budgets, marketing budgets, right? 10 years ago, if I said to you that if the budget was, let's say, $1 million, 70% of that budget was allocated to what we refer to as traditional in the day. That was print and outdoor and collateral materials and all kinds of brochures and catalogs. And, kind of in there somewhere, we spent some money on digital and here and there and there. Work on projects now. I don't think 5%, maybe less, is allocated towards traditional, other than maybe outdoor. Everything else is digital. And obviously social media is the direct and primary communication between developers, brokers, and agents. It is just the go-to. It's so immediate. It's so absolutely so quick, and the ability to respond so quickly. Never before certainly in my career, has it been a more sense of immediacy is really quite special. And learning from that, which I and my agency, LGD Communications, I made a huge investment 10, 12 years ago in the digital component, because you could see it. It was so transformative as to what was going on. So, we were really on top of it then, and Dash now, it's so fascinating to me. What's so exciting for me, having been around so long, and yet the great team that I've assembled, I don't think anybody is over 40, first and foremost, dealing with the level of talent of these prop tech engineers and developer companies is so invigorating and so eye-opening in terms of the ability to aggregate content, and then for Dash to deploy it in a way where it can be digested easily and deployed easily. And that's really it's not necessarily the secret sauce, but that's the essence of it. For a whole host of reasons, this three-legged stool of developer, brokerage, and agents have created these silos, and the system is really broken. It really is absolutely broken. And Dash is, we believe, the antidote, and we think it will become, we believe, the really go-to marketing tool for agents. All of the data that we're going to be able to collect on behalf of agents and equally on behalf of developers will be stunning as far as what agents are looking for, what developers are demanding, efficiencies of communication, and what we're hoping Dash to become is really a new way of selling real estate that's transparent. There's an old expression, is that everybody remembers the truth. Yeah. It's when you kind of begin spinning and either exaggerating or not entirely, it's hard to remember all this stuff. I'm looking to, if I have to scramble some eggs, I will, in terms of providing a genuine transparency of flow of information. So in the end, it will make it so much more efficient. And from inception of content to the conclusion where it sells, it should really help speed up the process. And look, part of the problem today is that it's very hard to find an individual or group of people who are going to say wonderful things about the developer, the agent, the brokerages. In many ways, they've earned their reputation, and I want to help elevate it. And I think that by providing a real sense of transparency, real truthfulness, a kind of purity of content, will really begin to change the way that people think about the process, and just make it more efficient and more and more truthful. And I think that benefits everybody in the end. I just do. And from all of the interviews that we've done with over the last 2.5, 3 years, it seems to be what each of these stakeholders are looking for. And so our technology is really it's not that there's a cutting edge component to it, obviously, because technology moves so quickly, but in its essence, Dash is about access, which is, look, the National Association of Realtors they do these wonderful surveys every quarter, and they ask agents in terms of, what are the headwinds? What are the impediments? Invariably, it's about access to accurate information. It's about keeping up with technology. I mean, these are the top things over and over the last 4, 5, 6 years. The average real estate agent in the United States is female, about 56 years old, works about 40, 50 hours a week. And their biggest challenge, that particular target demographic, is the least familiar with technology. Yeah. So what Dash tried, very early on in my conversations with heads of big time brokerage from CEO levels, they said, look, you can build the most comprehensive, robust platform. But if you don't make it remedial in terms of people to access it, understand it, what is the point? And that's exactly what we did. Dash is so easy to navigate, and the benchmark was, the mantra was, it has to be as easy and as efficient. If you can do your Facebook page, you can do Dash, and that's what we created. I want everybody to be able to benefit from this. That's the idea. And again, we take the pleasure and the need of agents. If I said to you, if I was your agent, and you're in New York, let's say, or any other place, and you want to looking at South Florida, and you said to me, okay, Len, I'm interested in Sunny Isles Beach, and I want the following. Here's the things that I'm really interested in. I'm interested in new construction. I'm interested in a 3-bedroom. I want it to be facing the ocean, and I have a budget of, let's say, $2 million. What do you got for me? Well, it would take an agent today to go through that process and validate it. And meaning having to talk to the sales center, and is it right? Is that those 3 bedrooms of the 4 projects that are in Sunny Isles facing the ocean, pricing, and on, hours and hours and hours. I mean, mind-numbing hours of validation. Yeah, on Dash, you'll do that in about 3 or 4 minutes. It's all there already. It is all there. And so on one platform to be able to do that, if we saved an agent 1 hour a day in terms of research and discovery, 1 hour a day, it's 20 hours a month if you don't count weekends. Okay, 20 hours a month, and we're a subscriber base. There's 2 levels of Dash: $39 a month for premium and $79 a month. And if I said to you that those 20 hours that you've now committed to finding research and discovery and whatnot now became, in the course of the month, 1 hour, what is that worth to you? I mean, listen, agents are a very, very special breed of individual. They are genuine and true entrepreneurs. They are in a very, very high wire, risk reward business. They don't work for, the holidays and, all of the benefits that other people, kind of covet and look to. They're entrepreneurs. They are absolutely looking to put themselves on the line, their expertise and commitment and tenacity, and for commissions, right? And that's a whole different kind of individual. It's not for everybody. So, they say that the barrier of entry for residential real estate is very low. You don't need a whole lot. You can take a course, 6 weeks, To be successful, it's a very high barrier. So what we're trying to do with Dash is to create an even playing field. If you're an agent for 10 or 15 or 20 years, you already have a network of individuals. They're buddies, they're comrades in arms and whatnot. If you're an agent that just started, there's no mentoring program. You're going to pay, if you're a major brokerage or secondary brokerage, you're going to pay us X number of dollars a month. We're going to give you a phone and a business card. Go out there and do your best. Well, the people that are really successful in this business are, I refer to them, they're masters of intel. They find information. They know what it means. They know how to evaluate data, and they know how to deploy it, and they know who to send it to at the right time for the right people, right? The right place. Dash will be able to create an even playing field for newbies, as I call them, new agents who've just gone into the business, because they'll be able to go into any community and they're going to know exactly, within a very short period of time, what are all the new development projects in Coral Gables or in West Palm Beach if it's a premium for $39 a month, which is really important for these folks, because having access to that intel creates more of an even playing field. They will be able to get very smart, very, very fast with Dash. And again, what I just said to you, that example about fine for me, take mind-numbing hours of someone, and then because developers don't update their information, they don't always make inventory availability and pricing, they don't update it. Dash will not only update it, we're going to time stamp it. This is what changed, and this is the time that it changed, the date that it changed. So when an agent goes and says, oh, that was updated, within the last handful of days, they can rest assured that that's accurate. Something that hasn't been touched, and most developers do not touch it, months on end. It creates this sort of sense of, well, maybe I better double check, because I do not want to represent something to a prospect. Agents just hate the fact when they get embarrassed that they represent, oh, this unit's for sale and this is the price, only to find out either that's not the price, the unit's not was sold. It makes them crazy, and rightfully so. So there's this level of distrust. They just don't believe it until they can get some sort of real validation from the director of sales or someone on property. We're going to eradicate all of that stuff by making the information current, accurate, and current. Seems very simple, right? In its concept, but that's what it is.
Yeah, you're really playing into the immediacy, aspect of things, and that's really what we've grown accustomed to. Just with how digital has gone in the last few years.
It's absolutely so. And by the way, after again, for me, having been in it for such a long time, but most acutely in the last handful of years, recognizing the ability to access information quickly is the most intoxicating, and yet when it's fake news, when it's misinformation, it's absolutely wrong information. I mean, there's a lot of platforms that agents use now. It's like a free-for-all. I mean, it's the validity of the content is so questionable that even though they could see something, the degree of disbelief is remarkable, and so they then have to. It's like the internet didn't exist. They couldn't take advantage of it. That's old school is pick up the phone. Is that, 3-bedroom on the sea line? It makes them crazy because, why? Because the entire, culture is about things happening very, very quickly. And when they can't provide that to a prospect, the prospect says, what the heck? I mean, obviously I'm, talking to somebody who doesn't really know what's going on. And they recognize how quickly they have to be able to provide accurate information, and when it's not available, it's really frustrating for them. Really, just a disaster. It's their livelihood. My God, it's what they need. We live by. Yeah,
of course.
Yeah,
I could see how Dash really fits in of being able to provide data availability, data accuracy for those agents. And also, like, when you taking a step back, when you realize this inefficiency that played a part for these agents, how are you able to bring forth a team, those who had that technical skill set as well, to help create this solution for the vision that you had?
So, yeah, I'm not a tech guy, obviously. What my role in all of this was really having, again, been around it for a while, and kind of being in so many meetings at the very beginnings of projects, right? So I'm like the fourth maybe leg in the stool. So the developer's there, and he's already selected his selected brokerage firm, and then he's kind of talking to very experienced and high performance agents, and they're kind of in the room, and I'm in the room too. I'm the guy sitting behind, right behind him, listening to this stuff, right, to all of the issues, and they're all speaking, but it's like if you watch a movie or you have like talk bubbles, right? That kind of thing where it's like they're saying one thing, but they really mean something else. So I was able to kind of like, if you listen to over and over and have a little bit of an ear, you're hearing like they're saying one thing, but they really mean something else. And so what I tried to do on numerous occasions in many different situations was to help to clarify the narrative. So everybody in the room, I don't mean like literally in the room, because it would take, when a new project comes to market and you're working 6 months, a year in advance. I mean, I would work on projects when it was, Len, what do you think of the dirt? What do you think? I mean, having done it for a long time and having a certain degree of expertise and from a marketing standpoint, I was asked very early on. So, this goes over a long period of time. Select an architect and interior designer, a landscape, it goes on and on and on. And so the technology behind it, I recognized that it was so clunky. This process was just clunky, and we've all been accustomed to, certainly now in all of our lives, the kind of we desire the speed of truth is what we really all kind of gravitate to. And these examples have been in this business category. Boy, they're really the opposite of it. There's just finding what's the truth, or what it is mind numbing for so many different people. I mean, and by the way, it's frustrating for the developer, it's frustrating for the brokers, and everybody's and for the agent. Everybody's frustrated, and out of frustration, they just go wild. And I was able to observe all of this and say, I think I have a better way to really change the business in a way that will benefit them. And by the way, on behalf of the buyer, we just wanted to be, can you just tell me what it is? Instead of everybody's so up to their eyeballs with spin and nonsense. And can't we all just kind of have one conversation and let it be truthful and represents what I'm buying, represents what the developer is genuinely selling? I don't think it's more complicated than that. And so I'm trying to demystify all of this. I'm trying to create an environment where there will be a new understanding of how this business should work. And that's what Dash is about. Dash is about access to accurate and current information. It's not even, it's not an enigma here. It is so, to me, so logical. Again, maybe because I've sat in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of meetings and worked on so many different projects that it just seemed to be so clear and absolute. That's why I kind of dove in with both feet, because I was not able to early on, when I thought of this kind of idea, I said, no, this has to exist. Of course this exists, right? So at the time, I gave the assignment to a handful of one of my teams. I said, okay, you spend an hour each day for the next 2 weeks scouring the internet. I just want to know where, I don't care if they're in London or Paris or wherever they are. I want to know what's out there. Nothing remotely like this in one place. And it was just remarkable to me. That's when I leaned into it. And by the way, so, very early on, I talked to clients of mine that I worked with for decades. What's going on? Tell me about. And then this, one question led to another question, and from developers to then brokers, and I've been friendly and done business with lots of big time, high performing agents. And basically said, "Tell me what's what ails you," and that was really it. And so, you give someone an opportunity to tell you honestly what ails them. It's like it's like. Okay, you asked, here it is. And it would go on and on and on and on. And what was eye-opening, and not terribly surprising, absolutely the same from New York to LA to San Francisco to Los Angeles, Chicago. It's the same story, the same exact theme. Seemed to me like a really good idea to jump in and figure it out. Yeah.
So how do you tease that out which is excellent, how you're able to listen to so many different voices of what their problems are? Mm-hmm. And specifically for our audience with this channel, some folks may see an inefficiency in their market, say in Houston, Texas, and be agent-related or something completely different. And they may be thinking, how can I build something to help this inefficient, broken process? So I guess my question here is, how do you listen to all the customer voices, what the problems are, but then really start honing in on fixing one thing specifically to help them?
So when I say that it's the same theme from whether it's New York or LA or Miami, whatever it is, what I mean by that is that developers behave in a certain way. brokerages behave in a certain way, and certainly agents behave in a certain way. What is common among all of them is the same. Really, it's the same thing. They want to understand what what it is that they just want to understand what the project is. Yeah, brokerages want to serve it up in a way where it's digestible and easily deployable to give them the content for them to do their job. I mean, like 98% of all real estate sold in the United States is co-broke, so it's not listen, I've been around long enough. Once upon a time, it was like if you were an XYZ, affiliated with a brokerage firm, we're going to give you the information early on in the process, like a month or two before everybody else sees it. So because you're affiliated with XYZ brokerage firm, you're going to get the inside track to that. Once upon a time, that was what was done. No more. That's not done that way. Information, data goes out as quickly as it possibly can. So Houston, I think, is our market 8 or 9. So they're gonna have to wait like a year and a half before we get there. But when we go to a market, it's the process is we kind of take a look at the again, Dash is only about pre-construction and new construction, so there's no resales. Anything that's developer inventory, meaning no resales, will be on the Dash platform. So if let's say I'm a developer and I have 10 units left, let's say, I really want to get rid of those units. Developers realize whatever profit is in the last 20% of the inventory, 50% of the inventory. So they're motivated to kind of move, be done with it and move on. Developers are always looking for the next deal, right? They're like deal junkies is what they are. You give a developer the opportunity to build something, they're building. Right. So the idea is that when we go from market to market, we go in and kind of look at the landscape. And because of my company's relationship with national brokerage firms, our success in Miami and then to New York and LA will be the brokerage firms will be, we believe, our best sales force, although we have a sales force, because I'll just drop a name. For example, Jay Parker at Element runs Element, Florida. Well, he has a counterpart in New York and he has a counterpart in LA. We do our job right with Dash. And Jay was one of the very, very early guys who was part of the core initial team to, help guide us in terms of what they were looking for and what was missing in the marketplace. And I could drop dozens of other names of national brokerage firms saying, we need, in a perfect world, if Dash could do the following, and then we went ahead and we did it. So our success in Florida, I don't think I'm going to have to twist Jay's arm for him to go to his counterpart in New York and then LA. And then it's in their best interest. They want as many agent eyeballs on their project, on their product, as they possibly can get, and the ability for it to get into agents' hands easily, and for them to deploy it easy. Everybody wins. I mean, this is a win-win-win-win-win-win-win. No one's compromised in this. Nobody. Developers are already budgeted for outside sales versus inside sales. They've already done their pro formas, whatever, from market to market. So if a developer, like, for example, in Miami, they pay on site anywhere from 2 to 3% of sales. And depending on where you are in Florida, if you're in Dade County, it's probably in the 6%. Some places it's 5%, a little further north in Palm Beach County, maybe it's 5% or what. They've budgeted that number already. So it's not like, don't let the outside, real estate agent sell this stuff because I have to give up another 5 or 6%. It's already baked in. It's all part of the pro forma. They've done this already. So the incentive for brokerage, on-site brokers, is that, come on, let me get you all this information. Come on in. We're going to sell it. And we'll sell it as quickly as we possibly can, for the highest price we possibly can. And let's move on to the next, one. And so Dash is the vehicle, we believe, that will make life easy for everybody. Everybody's going to be happier by utilizing Dash, because the process will be streamlined. And listen, for developers, the longer they have inventory, obviously, the more expensive it is. Interest rates being what they are today, materials what they are. It's just, it gets, they project X number of months of sellout, and when it goes way, way, way beyond it, it's painful. Mm-hmm. So we think Dash is that Dash will be highly encouraged, for developers to participate, because for example, if a brokerage firm, again, we charge developers $750 a month for updates, meaning that multiple updates. So in the business cycle of any project, it starts off with renderings, floor plans, and a fact sheet, and then it moves on. So as information continues to be developed and then put up on their website, they would give it to Dash, and we'll put it up as well. So we charge them $750 a month to do what I said that we're going to do. Every single project has unbrand it and reformat it. And having worked on literally hundreds and hundreds of budgets, and every developer saying the same thing to me, that is ridiculously inexpensive to be able to have content that is accurate and updated. I've generated 500, 1,000 budgets in many marketplaces. I know exactly what that represents to a project. It's a very, very low number, and for what it provides. And again, everybody's screaming for the accuracy and transparency, and really that is our mantra: transparency. Efficiency. Make life easier, not hard. It's hard. Life's hard anyway, and this business is very, very tough. You want to make it even more painful, and more impossible, to get the information. By the way, agents are very, very, they exist and they thrive by information that they can rely on. And when they don't have it, it makes it really, really, really troublesome and painful for them. So, it's their livelihood. So I come from it from that standpoint. I have one son who happens to be a real estate broker, an agent, and he's helped us. He's been an agent for 5, 6, 7 years, very successful. And he was part of the early kind of discovery about that. It's got to do this, 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 and this. It must do that. And, I hear horror stories from him about inability to get accurate content. Absolutely hair-raising examples of such terrible inefficiencies in the business. So, yeah, we think we have something quite special and very different, in that it's all on one platform. Make life so much easier for our agents. So,
yeah, all on one platform, low barrier to entry.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, it's inexpensive. Lord, I don't know what is it for a 79. That's $1.25 a day for the pro version. How do you not use? How do you not? My Lord. It seems very. Again, we've spent a lot of time and a lot of resources, my time and money and all the rest of it, to make sure that it satisfies all these things. Look, because you're an agent and you're living from commission, from deal to deal to deal to deal, you really want to provide a platform that they can really use. Because nobody's subsidized, nobody's underwriting these expenses, because they have a license, and then they're going to do the MLS, and all this stuff is very, is expensive, and before they make their first dollar. So we want to provide them with a tool, a really efficient marketing and sales tool that is going to help them make a difference. Yeah, that's the idea.
Yeah, I see the need. I have my real estate agent license for 2 years, and then I went inactive just because of all these monthly costs. And sometimes what you're paying for, you're not really getting the value back. So say in this instance, I was an agent that's been around the Miami-Dade, Broward County area for 15 years. I hear the value of the product. What would be like my first 3 to 5 steps to get started?
Easy. The process is you're going to get a 10-day free trial. So this is what we do. So it was created for licensed real estate agents. If you're not licensed, an active license, and we have a 2-level verification. So we're hoping, we think we've kind of dealt with folks gaming the system. This is not a consumer-facing platform. This is a B2B. So you have to show us an active license, which we will verify, and I think your driver's license as well. Okay, so you are, say you are, okay. So you're then going to give us a credit card. We're not going to charge you a nickel. And for 10 days, you're going to have access to the pro version, which is the Ferrari of Dash, right? And within a 10-day period of time, you're going to see how it operates and how it works. On day 5 or day 6, we're going to send you a prompt saying, okay, in like 4 days, you're going to have to make a decision with 2 subscription levels, $39, $79. And then the day before, we're going to say, okay, we're ready. We're going to let you know. Hope you had a great experience. And by the way, if you haven't had a great experience, we have all kinds of, we're going to ask you why. I mean, because we're in the learning process as well. Part of the Dash, the essence of Dash, raison d'etre of Dash, is to have an open communication with our agents. It's not like we know everything about everything. We want that feedback. This is my hope and prayer that Dash will wind up being in the ilk of a Wikipedia, a self-policing platform. And this is what I mean by that, is that when their projects are on the platform and agents, are on it as well. And we'll see from the analytics where agents are going, what they're looking at, and on and on and on and on. And if there are projects that are just not getting any sort of traction and whatnot, we'll start posing questions on behalf of the developer as well. But believe me, he's asking questions as, why isn't anything happening here? Why aren't we getting any traction? Why aren't we getting any eyeballs? And by the way, our developers will be provided analytics that they can go into the back end and see on their project exactly, what's going on. What are the agents looking at? 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, whatever. So again, this is all on the theme of transparency. We want our developers to be able to see what the heck's going on and where people are coming from. It will educate them. It will keep them smart and more in tune of what's going on in the marketplace. The same thing for the agents. And so we believe that if a developer is, let's say, not entirely forthcoming, not entirely truthful or accurate with his content, we're going to hear about it from the agents. And this is what I mean by self-policing, that if we provide a platform for them to have a real voice in this conversation and for then us to hear it and adjust accordingly. And all that means really is Dash is not about disrupting anything. Dash is about enhancing the experience. I hate that word disruption personally. This is not what we're trying to do. We're trying to change the narrative for the benefit of all, recognizing that there are lots of issues in the process of residential sales today. And so by doing so, if we can get, and we will get that feedback from the agents as to what's going on in any particular project or anything about the platform that they want to see, absolutely, we're gonna iterate it. We're gonna, I mean, again, we're there for them. We're there for them. And so what you'll do is that, and then hopefully you'll have had 10 days of the pro version. And if you do this for a living, it's not that the premium version is a basic subscription where you'll be able to go and see every single community, every single project, new project in every single community, and a whole host of other things that that just doesn't exist today. I mean, there's no place you can go and say, you can spend a few hours. What are the new projects in Coral Gables, new development in Coral Gables? You're gonna look through all these different websites. And by the way, half of them are broker websites. I mean, they do this very, very well because, as a matter of fact, some of the brokerages' websites are better than the developer's official website. Interestingly enough, they've gotten very smart, very clever. Because they want the leads to come to them. Consumers think they're going to the official website. No, they're going to XYZ brokerage. And then of course they get get their hands on them first. Anyway, so the point is that if we will have this platform for agents to respond in terms of what's going on and to be able to say to us, not to broadcast it, but to say that project is not the information that they're serving up is not accurate. We also make for the developers 2 fields that they have access to. inventory availability and pricing. We're not touching that, meaning Dash is not touching that, because those two components, the availability of inventory and the pricing of it, changes fast. Yes. And the intent of and purpose of Dash is for that basic information to be available. Yeah. I'm sorry, you had a question?
No.
Yeah. So okay. So you know, you might be surprised to hear, which I certainly was. So when we started doing our initial aggregating of content in South Florida, the basic thing is that if an agent, a licensed agent, sends an email, calls them and says, hey, I have a prospect who's interested in your building. Can you send me your inventory availability and pricing? 60% of them didn't have that for the agent to grab from the toolbox or from whatever, meaning that they're now creating another exercise for the agent, fill out a form, call us on the phone, you know, a whole sort of, you know that whole statistic, the more clicks to get to the answer, the quicker people fall off, right? So, you know, I couldn't help but imagine, why would they continue to do this? If you don't want to put all the pricing, you know, you want to, listen, I worked with projects where the strategy was, we're going to phase in, you know, the inventory. Fine. So, and Dash publishes whatever the developer provides for us. And if they only want to do the first tranche is just 2 bedrooms, I'm making this up, right? Okay, that's what we'll publish. But when they don't provide to licensed agents that information, which is the first question, I have a prospect. He's looking for a 2-bedroom and 3, you know, 2.5 bath, you know, looking at the bay. What's the, you're going to torture me. Now I'm going to pick up the phone. Now I'm going to send an email. Maybe you respond. Maybe you don't. That guy, that agent's like, you know, aside from pulling their hair out, they moved on. And if you don't want to make it available to me easily, the heck with you. You're wasting my time. And time is one thing that I cannot waste. So Dash has all of that, and they'll get it immediately.
Yeah, that's great. It sounds like you're really building a community.
Yeah.
You know, aside from providing that accurate data and all. What have been some of the challenges of acquiring that, you know, that data and maintaining that accuracy?
Okay, so I'll tell you. So what's really interesting, this talks to a little bit about market to market. So I'll just give you an example. So we're already now aggregating content for the greater New York area. We hope to be in New York in sometime in October, mid to late October. So, and I worked there for many, many years in Manhattan. Developers like to say, very high profile developers like to say, you know, well, we keep things, you know, very close to the vest. We don't want to share too much right now. And so these guys I worked with years ago, right? I know them, they know me. I know the firms that represent, you know, the brokerage firms that represent. And I say, I don't get it. I don't understand. I don't understand. I do understand, but I can't believe it. Meaning that there are certain developers that I worked with for many, many years who felt like, I want to give the people that I hire to sell my project the opportunity to sell. So I'm not going to publish the available inventory and the pricing. I'm going to make the agents, force them. You have somebody that might be interested in, well, okay, you could call us, you get in touch with us, and then we can have a conversation. And maybe, meaning the developer, on-site brokerage, you know, maybe, you know, I'll give it to you, maybe I won't. Okay, which to me is beyond nuts, beyond crazy. And that's what they, you know, playing it close to the vest. We don't reveal. So I think what they this is such an old school concept. And by the way, I lived in that old school world, and I worked with those guys in the late 90s, and you know, they had this kind of mentality about it. And why I believe that it's a broken system and siloed, and it's just become this imperfect understanding of how business is done today, that the quicker that you can provide accurate and timely content, that you, Mr. Developer, will be the beneficiary of that. And that it doesn't cut out your on-site brokerage firm, does not. It gives them, it moves the conversation forward quicker. I mean, you're going to make the agent go through all of this only to find out, you know, I'm like, well, that's not really right for my client. come on, let's shortcut the conversation because my time, meaning the agent, is quite valuable. But so developers have it, I want my people to have the opportunity to sell. That's why they're there. Well, yeah, that's why they are. That's why you pay them a lot of money and you only use the best of the best, really seasoned professionals. But give them an opportunity to at least get the conversation going. And if you're not going to qualify availability of inventory and a price, so that's a challenge. That is a real challenge. And by the way, I think that as Dash evolves and gains traction in market to market, those guys are just going to follow suit because they know what this game is that you need to get as many eyeballs, legitimate eyeballs, meaning that's why only licensed agents can get on there. So already we've, for better or worse, cut out the consumer. Look, agents have said to me from the very, very beginning, when Zillow and a handful of others became, or originally were B2Bs, but then kind of opened it up to consumers. Everybody thought that was, just agents were not so cool about it, were upset about it. And now the content that goes on Zillow is not always verified, validated, confirmed. And so it provides a real mishmash, a real confusion in the marketplace. And what it really took away from agents was this content that let them do their job. The thing about the agent buyer, 88% of homes that were sold last year were done with agents. So it's not like they're going anywhere. And we rely on agents. We all rely on agents to provide marketing insights, where we might see challenges, they see solutions. Let's give them the tools to do their jobs. And that's what Dash does. That's that's the idea. All right. So that, I think from market to market, developers that are a little bit more old school, still kind of hold on to some of that mentality. I think it'll change. I really believe that Dash will help, kind of have them pivot away into something a little bit more contemporary, a little bit more with the times now, and what the agents really demand and what they need.
Right. It seems like you provided that education to some of those developers already, which is excellent. And Len, I've learned so much, not just about your product, the benefit of Dash, but how you're able to solve inefficiencies and be able to acquire from many interviews what are the main pain points and how to resolve that with technology. So with that, if the audience wanted to get in touch with you or start looking through Dash and using it as their foremost product, how would they do so?
Okay, so the URL is dash-to-dash.com, which I thought was, by the way, I didn't come up with that URL. It's so impossible buying URLs today. So I was having a conversation with my wife, and she said, I don't know, she's just said, yeah, it's like dash to dash, right? Dash from the verb to the noun. I said, oh my God, what did you just say? So it's dash-to-dash.com, and it's kind of one of those things that where I said it once and people just kind of, because I asked a whole bunch of friends, what do you think? Yeah, I said it once and they said, what's the URL? Dash to dash. Oh, great. And I'm Len at dash-to-dash.com.
Perfect.
That's a good touch. Yeah. It's, by the way, signing up and getting a free trial, easy peasy. I mean, for licensed agents and whatnot, we welcome everybody. Because look, the validity and the growth of Dash will genuinely be a function of the folks that we serve, our agents. That's the idea.
Great. And we'll have the links below as well as your contact information. So thank you again, Len, for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Had a good time. Thanks.